We could do a song and dance.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's call the meeting to order. 8 o'clock, please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Do we have any additions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bills, with the additional bills on our desks in front of us.
There's a couple on the list that I'll have separate motions later.
Okay, any questions, I guess?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the bills. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call please.
Frith,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye. Motion carries. Financial report.
We're slowly getting back into it. Nobody's really spending much, so.
I didn't see anything on the here.
Nope.
Okay, any questions?
Move to approve the financial as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the financials as submitted. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Supposed to roll call that? I was okay.
Not that one.
Okay.
Treasurer's check. Oh, yeah, it's only $16.
Treasurer's checks.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Frith,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye. Motion carries. Agenda, anything to add? Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries and the agenda is approved. Okay. First up, Katie, good morning.
Good morning. My budget has basically stayed, most of the line items are the same, the salaries are lower because of my resignation. Those are the only changes on the regular budget, and then for my entering budget, I did lower that from 45,000 to 30,000 to reflect more of what is already in the account. On my mortgage scanning book project, I still have stage 2 and stage 3 to pay for. I'm told stage 2 is coming on August 31st. And then there will also be a fee to Tyler Technologies to have those images put into Document Pro. So that's going to take a good chunk of what's in there right now. But that account always has money flowing into it. So even if we take it under that $30,000 mark, I'm confident it will get back up to 30,000 throughout 2021, and that money will be available for whatever might be needed.
Okay. See, my eyes are still looking at these sheets again. Okay, do we have any questions for Katie? All right, seeing none, thank you, Katie. Crystal's back there. Excuse me, goodness. Morning.
Good morning. So my budget went up quite, or not quite a bit, like about 12,000. That includes.
We're page 3, correct?
Sorry.
That's okay. So what that includes is, I took off the step, what our current step system is right now, and went off of that with the, for the years of services, and took the 3% and then the 2% of cost of living. So that brought it up to like $35.72 an hour. And then also I put in the budget to put me up to 25 hours now a week. And the reason for that is because of our increase with social service zone, where the HR is the responsibility of the county. So I did visit with Rhonda about that, and we agreed that about 25% can be allocated for HR for indirect costs to be reimbursed by the state. And that comes up to around 11,600.
So the increase that we see on here will be reimbursed to the county, so functionally not much is changing.
Fairly close, yeah, and then not include the raise.
And what did you say about the obligation that the host county has
For HR responsibilities.
for ocean HR?
As part of that bill, we had, for those counties, we have for HR.
And so the state will have some involvement with the HR also, and their involvement's gonna be more of the, when there's a termination or disciplinary actions, we have to follow that administrative code. So there will still be HR involvement from the state. And then also in the increase of hours, I'd like to, this next year, focus on the salary study for the county. We haven't had one done. The latest one I could find was around 2011. So that puts us back about 9 years ago. And realistically, when we have a step system, what that step system goes off of is the market value. And when you don't do a market value within a year to 2 to 3 years, you're gonna start to get off. So I don't wanna say that we're off a lot, because I have no idea, but I think that one should be done so we can make sure we know exactly where we're at, because I'm getting questions on like longevity pay. So what that is when they top off the step system. Right now we have it at 25 years. So when they get above 25 years, they're no longer on that step system. So usually what happens then is you put a longevity pay in there, you can put it at a set value, or else you can, do a set percentage rate for it. So that's just something to look at, but I hate to implement a longevity pay when we don't know exactly where our salaries are with the market value. So that would be the reason to focus on that. And a salary study it's time consuming, because you're having to look into all the numbers, where they're coming from, matching up job descriptions, job duties. So it gets to be a very time consuming ordeal. I visited with Adam a little bit, and I did get a quote. Some counties are moving towards having an outside company come in and do the salary study. And I did get a quote on it, it was roughly 18,000 to 34,000, dependent on what you wanted him to do exactly. So, and usually HR does take on that duty. And so I'm comfortable with taking it on as long as I get the hours to do it.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay. So yeah, that's the main thing with my budget, for the increase.
Do you, just to clarify,
Yeah.
do you feel you have enough hours budgeted in this to successfully undertake that and the social services expansion in addition to your other duties?
So I'm comfortable with around the 25-hour mark. It might go up to 30, it just depends on what issues arise. You know, because we did take on 2 counties that there's some issues there. But once you get an employee issue, it just depends on what the complexity of it is for the time that has to be involved in it. So if I do have to go over them hours of 25, you know, I'd like to be able to do that, not just have to set things aside.
No, and I don't want to give you that impression. I just want to know if you feel that this budget will accurately reflect kind of, you know, where we're going to be at. Not for any other reason, it just didn't have my own knowledge of it.
Sure. Right now I'm comfortable with it because we've been into it for a while now with the social service redesign and the county's coming on board, so I'm fairly comfortable with it. But and then, you know, it's hard to see what arises down the road. I try to always though limit my time to keep it in the range as much as I can.
You think you'll receive a lot of help from the state also?
Yes, like I mentioned with like the disciplinary actions and terminations part of it. But when you think about it, where's an employee gonna go to? They're gonna come over to that county HR that's got the standing person there instead of the state HR, and you have to give the employee some direction where they need to go.
Okay, further questions? Seeing none, I guess we'll move on to the professional discipline policy.
Okay, and just one more thing, my office is gonna be moving. Lisa brought up that they have that office space right next to their office. It's kind of like a closet area, but it has a hallway door. And so they're working on remapping that into an office space now for me. The reason is because when employees kind of come into the auditor's office, you know, the doorbell rings and it's not real confidential private. And I'm thankful Tammy give up that space there for me, but I think this would be a much better position for where to locate the office. So, just so you're aware of that part.
Okay. Okay, excuse me, professional discipline policy, then, I guess.
Now, it's been a while since we had the department heads look at this because of the whole COVID and I tried to leave it off the meetings so we didn't take up too much time in the meetings. But so the department heads did review it, and what I did was I took 2 different progressive discipline policies and gave them 2 separate options. I gave them a really vague one, and then I give them this option here that you guys have that's more detailed on what to do when you have a certain situation, and that's the one that they chose to go with if that would fit their needs.
Decent stuff there, I guess. Any questions? You've gone through it.
Does this put the county in a box?
It doesn't because we have a couple different clauses in it. If you go to the second page there under employee conduct that can result in disciplinary action, there's 2 paragraphs. It would be the second paragraph, the last sentence. The county reserves the right to determine the appropriate level of discipline for any performance or conduct issues.
Okay.
And then it also puts on, I also have the clause in there, you know, that for the at-will employment and
Yeah, that second sentence there, that no list of roles can include all instances of conduct that can result in discipline, basically says, this is examples of the different tiers, but it's not necessarily an all-inclusive list of what you can be disciplined for, if something were to occur. any other questions, I guess, from anybody else? The only question I had was, the tier 3, and this is something that I might be forgetting about. Did we look at a medical marijuana one at some point in time when we did the drug portion of it?
We did.
We did, okay. I thought so, but I was just going, because the tier 3 has any kind of drug usage is a automatic fireable offense or anything against the drug policy. So I was just trying to remember if we did something with prescription drug usage and medical marijuana for an exemption, essentially, if, so we make sure we're covered there.
Yep.
Okay, I thought we did, but that's a long time ago.
Okay.
It's coming over me in waves. Okay, very good. Okay, further discussion, further questions?
No, I thought it looked good.
Okay, what would we like to do with it, I guess?
I'll make a motion to implement it.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Department heads are all right with this?
What's that?
Department heads are all right?
Yeah, like I mentioned, they reviewed it prior, but that was before the COVID. All COVID stuff on. But they have reviewed it.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the progressive discipline policy as presented. Further discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Crystal. If it's okay with everybody, it's my fault. Is it okay if we jump down to unfinished business since Katie and Bev are here? I apologize. Is that okay with everyone if we jump down there and just knock that out so that they can get back to work then? Okay. We had a table last meeting for the county recorder position. We had some different options on the table. We discussed it somewhat thoroughly, I think. We've had some time to think about it. I guess I can lead off if it's okay with everyone. Just in thinking about it, we're already, what, 7th of July, and your last day is August 31st, correct? So we're only, what, seven weeks out? And to me, it obviously, regardless of what we decide to do with the position, whether we decide to ask the people if they'd like to keep it elected, whether we just decide to make it, appointed ourselves, however we feel about going about doing it, we're going to have somebody running the office regardless. Between now and whenever a change gets made, obviously. And to me, I guess in my opinion, Katie's recommendation is gold standard for me. I've always enjoyed working with Katie, and I trust you. Plain and simple. So it seems to me that the right decision in my mind is to put Bev in the position of recorder and then determine what we want to do, whether it's appointed or whatever, going forward. At least that's my opinion. I don't know how everybody else's feels, but just figured I'd throw that out there to start the discussion.
No, I share that view. And I think that because we're running low on time here, it behooves us to allow this office to successfully transition. And in general, it's the way we've conducted ourselves in previous situations similar to this. So I think it would be unfair for us to do anything otherwise. And so with that said, I guess I'd actually just make the motion that we do accept the recommendation and appoint Bev as recorder, and that we also open up for candidates for the deputy recorder replacement.
Okay.
And on that note, I do have a personnel requisition form for you, because we're really looking for that position.
Okay. So we have, and that's correct, September 1 then, just so my mind is right. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to appoint Bev to the recorder's position and then open so we can find a deputy, hopefully in that same time frame. Further discussion on that motion? I guess we need a second to the motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second to the motion. Further discussion. And again, it doesn't preclude us from doing anything else we've been talking about, really, in the grand scheme of things. It's just we're making sure we have continuity, we have the right person in the job, and then we can determine if we want to ask the people or if we want to put it in maybe home rule or whatever we plan to do. But at least we got it all straightened out. Further discussion.
And I would assume that deputy job description would be very similar to what was done a year or so ago.
It's exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Yep.
Yeah, and you said we had, what, 30 applicants, so hopefully we'll have a bunch of good applicants again. That's the hope.
And what's the timeline, Crystal, for publicizing that and getting applications and interviews and,
We have 58 business days.
okay, we have to post it.
Yeah, and then try to, on that 10th day, have everything ready.
Hopefully, I think it'll go smoothly.
Yeah, so we have enough time frame, in other words, no problem to get everything taken care of, get everything lined up and figure out, or find somebody, I should say, is probably the correct term. Okay, very good. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Bev.
Yes, congratulations.
Okay. Now where are we at? All right, we gotta go back up top again. Sorry, I'm kind of back and forth here. All right, Beth, good morning.
I'm just here for my budget. Had very few changes, really. I just did the recommended 2% salary change that we were given in that report. And then in my service contracts, there's less than last year because we were paying Vanguard for their revaluation, and that is done. However, from the very past, it's up a little bit, and that's just because I'm adding in the cost for Microsoft Office email and remote management software that was previously taken out of the IT budget. And Steve had asked myself, and I assume the other departments, to put it in our budget moving forward instead of it coming out of the budget. So other than that, that's the only changes.
All right. That looks good. You
Looks really good.
$44,000 down, all right. Start chalking stuff up here, start doing some quick math. All right, any questions for Beth?
Thank you.
What's the reason for the 44 down?
The,
Vanguard is
Yeah, we had
that,
that budgeted high.
Yeah, the difference between,
that bill was like 80 some, right?
We budgeted for 2 years.
the difference between 59 and 11, basically, on the service contract, the difference. Okay. No questions? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's going way quicker than it's, I shouldn't say that. Than it normally is.
You jinxed it.
I jinxed us, I'm sorry. Roger is not in the room right now, so we'll skip down to Carrie.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Okay.
So for the budget, it actually went down. Salaries, I put in 2%. Inquest salaries, keep 1,000 in there. Travel expenses went down 1,000. Realistically, in light of the pandemic, it may not be touched, but office supplies stayed the same. Library, I cut over 50%. We have some electronic databases that came in way less than we were initially quoted. Capital outlay, can you please switch something to a technology field?
We will.
Okay.
We'll split it out.
So some of the costs in capital outlay are for the electronic equipment, but then also to get on the state email and VPN network, that's a specific cost for each computer, so that's incorporated in there. Miscellaneous and dues, that was 15,000 last year, I put it to 6,000 this year. The reason that was so high last year was we were looking at conference furniture for that one room up there, and we actually found one on Facebook for $300. Got a good deal there.
There you go.
So it did go down overall. We're still anticipating getting a $30-some thousand grant for one of the paralegal positions. That typically goes back into the general fund once we get that.
Okay. Questions for Carrie on the budget? We're still sitting okay when it comes to overall caseload and the amount of people we have?
Well, with the pandemic and kind of the mandates locally to law enforcement about, we're gonna handle violent probably at 2018 numbers,
Okay.
which was still higher than every other year, but we've been pretty steady now, things opening back up. I did learn yesterday that we have the 10th highest immigration in the state. Not that I think that's a good thing, I don't want to strive for that, I think we're the 12th largest city, but so far so good. So I think we're okay, at least for another year.
Okay.
Carrie, just a quick question.
Yep.
Because of everything having slowed down the way it has, does that mean that you're gonna face a big backlog once, like a log jam once it's over?
That's
We
a
have a
question
lot
too,
of
please.
jury trials scheduled for starting in August, the year into next year.
And you're gonna be okay to get through that?
Oh, yeah.
I just-
The other thing that changed a little bit in our office, and I think Crystal touched on it, was the host county for social services, the host county state attorney gets all the personnel issues from all the other counties to deal with for terminations. So basically, stick with that type of activity.
Do we bill some of that to the state then also?
They put in a cost sharing thing, but I'm not sure if it goes through that same route or not. I'll have to check with Rhonda on that.
Yeah, it's a percentage of that. It's what they call it CWA on the indirect costs.
But I anticipate that would be higher this year.
I saw someplace, I can't remember, was it right at the Herald or where, they said that this, however many months we've been off of jury trials, now what, 4 months is gonna push it, it's gonna be a year or two backlog to push through everything now, because if you're not constantly on schedule, you're just pushing everything way behind.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. We're
Oregon
gonna,
County had the first one on July 1, and there's one in Towner County, which was the second one, and Grand Forks I saw was opening up.
slowly getting started again, and we hope we can keep going, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good, thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Hey, so Roger, so we'll move on. Kevin.
Right. Update on our projects, our chip seal project is all done now, they got it painted the other day. The only thing that is left is painting railroad markings. So that's complete now. Any questions on our chip seal project?
I'll just make a comment, they did a nice job.
Yeah, it is really.
It's really, really nice. I'm enjoying driving on it.
And also our civil overlay on Ramsey 2, nothing's really changed much there. Paul that said that he didn't have anything new to add either. They have until the end of this month to get the rumble strips. There's rumble strips on the east end, down by where the T intersection is. They're stop strips, not rumble strips, they're stop strips to tell people to stop. And then they gotta paint it. The permanent lines, that's the only thing left, but they have until the end of this month according to the contract.
So those, the middle lines on that aren't permanent yet then?
Right.
Really? Yeah.
They don't have the reflectivity in them, if you notice at night.
Okay. I was wondering why they hadn't, yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions, why haven't they painted sidelines like the white since we had them on three right away? Yeah, okay.
The center lines that are there are temporary and not really reflective.
Interesting. I guess it shows you what I can pay attention to.
Okay, so any questions on our inlet overlay? Okay, next, review our 2019 end of year report. That's just kind of for your information. I don't know if you have any questions on anything. It's just what our costs were for roads and equipment.
Financial report.
Yeah.
A lot of information here. Good stuff.
Some of you probably haven't seen these before. We haven't had one for a few years now, but it's kind of nice to review, to see what, well, for instance, if you go to the equipment list, unit 117 is a dump truck that we don't use much of. Kind of reflects in the cost of the year, per mile or per hour. At the end of the year, it's $657 an hour. We didn't use it at all, so.
We pay insurance on it, it's out there.
So that's the interesting part of the report. And on the second page of that equipment list, the last 6 pieces are our motor graders. And that's kind of interesting too. They're all fairly close to the same cost for each one. I think the Devil's Lake blade uses a few more cutting edges, otherwise his is a little bit higher, so otherwise they're pretty equal.
Kevin, while I'm thinking about it, now we've been going half on the Cove Road now for about a year. Has there been any, I mean, has that been working smoothly? I don't imagine there's a whole lot to do on it, but there's been no problems with the way we set that up?
No, I don't think so. I think, the big expenses are done now, so.
Right.
Going into the future now, it's just a matter of maintenance.
I was just curious if there was anything unexpected. I thought that because I was reading all the road names.
Replace those motor graders, 3 of them.
We did, but this is the 2019 report, they were replaced in 20, so. They're not on this report. So any other questions on the roads or? One other thing I was gonna mention on the roads, if you look at, on the roads list, like Ramsey 9A, that's where we fixed all those soft spots last summer and, actually gravelled it. So the mile per mile cost on that is elevated. And that's why, because we have 2 projects on that particular stretch of road.
Did it pay?
Yeah, it did. I mean, you can see where the spots that we did fix, there are some newer ones that developed, but the ones that we did fix held it together real good. All right, if there's no questions, move on to bills. High Plains Equipment did get our tractor fixed. Original estimate was about $8,500, but the final bill was $10,125.86. Some of the parts that they needed were higher than they were estimating, so that's why that went up.
Move to approve. It's working all right?
Working finally up. They actually had it apart 3 times.
Really?
The first time they had it apart, put it together, and then when they went to test drive it, it wouldn't shift, so they tore it all down again. There was some shaft that they didn't get, they got a pulley they got in backwards, so they turned that around, put it all back together again, and we went and got it. It lasted 4 hours maybe, and a keeper on the inside came off one of the shafts, a little C-ring keeper, so I had to tear it all apart again. So yeah, it could have been a lot more if they charged us for all the labor, they kind of ate a lot.
Is that a good sign or?
No, it's not a good sign.
I'll second.
Pay him off.
Yeah, we're sorry I had that motion on there.
Oh, we gotta pay for the bill, oh.
Well, I don't know.
All right, we got a motion to second to pay High Plains for
What's the
the.
value on this tractor though?
About 44 roughly.
It's still putting money into it, still has some more tractors. Okay, we have a motion in a second, further discussion. Seeing none, roll call please.
Brett,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye, motion carries.
And if you remember, at the same time, we had one of our trucks in at Butler, and they were having a hard time getting the software to load into their computer to read the computer in the truck. And they never did find a, Allison's pretty, doesn't like to give out their software to anybody. they want you to bring their transmissions to them. But we went and got the truck and it worked fine, so we're still using it. It's one of those things where there's a short somewhere around these solenoids and we can't find it, they can't find it, nobody's been able to find it. There's a wire somewhere that's loose or something, we don't know.
So it jiggled back in, so it's working again,
Exactly.
until it jiggles loose again.
Seems like after the rain is when it wants to give us problems, and then after it sits inside for a while, it starts to go. Sometimes we can just shut it off and start it right up again. It's weird. Someday it'll show up.
Where do you gotta go to get Allison's service there?
To Grand Forks.
Which one?
RDO?
RDO?
Yeah, it's next to RDO. It might be RDO. It's in that building. It's in that plaza.
This is one of our trucks.
With the automatic transmission, Allison transmission. Finicky buggers.
I might have to take it down to them then.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at it then.
Probably before winter hits, we're gonna do that.
Okay.
So it's ready for winter.
Okay, sounds good.
And the next one is our chip seal project on Ramsey 3. That final bill came to $365,219.94. That was right at what they did, but it was $60,000 under what I had budgeted, so need a motion to pay that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second to pay the chip seal bill. Further discussion or question? Seeing none, roll call please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Brett,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye.
Motion carries. Last thing I have is I need to order another load of culverts just for stock in our yard. I think there might be quite a few going out the door with this last rain, so I thought I better get ahead of the game. Next,
Move to approve.
What was the dollar on?
pardon?
What was the dollar on?
$13,746.20.
Second.
Okay, motion to second to buy some culverts for stock. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call again.
Brett,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye. Motion carries. I guess we weren't paying for those, we were just ordering them, but that's it.
That's all I have. Any questions?
One thing on that county floor up there in culverts, I called you yesterday morning. All the office, I should say.
I was there Thursday afternoon, and I did see all those. There's probably 4 or 5 maybe open cut culverts or approaches. They're trying to get the water to drain. And I just happened to meet Fritz along the road that day and afternoon. He said that they were gonna put them all back better than they were. I asked him, well, how come you cut them? He said, well, the culverts were plugged. And they're never plugged before. And I said, well, what were they plugged with? And he said, cattails and corn stalks. So, it would have been just a matter of cleaning them out, but they open cut them all. One of the open cuts was on a section line, but it was beyond our right of way, so it was on the actual township right of way when they made that cut. So there's like 4 or 5, I can't remember how many now. They had to ditch and the water wasn't draining away, it was just sitting there still. It wasn't, for whatever reason, it wasn't getting away, even with the open cut. So even if the culverts were partially plugged, the water just wasn't moving. For whatever reason, I don't know why. That was after all that rain, of course.
So I'll give the commission a little back information. Kelsey Eisens called me yesterday morning and left a message. I called him back. He told me about the situation. He had pictures, but I didn't have him send them to me. He had land downstream from this, flooded acres. He claimed, I haven't seen it. But we can't let people go in and start whacking away at culverts in their approaches, for God's sakes, on a county road. I mean, that is a violation in a huge way.
See, I didn't do anything wrong. I just
Without
got
any permission. I haven't seen it.
Well, he did, the way it sounds, he just opened Open the approaches up.
Open approach is right.
I mean, that's a problem on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and I understand, I mean, we have water to get rid of too, but, I mean,
If they would have just made the under the culverts, I think they would have been fine.
you know, water, permit for the water and all kinds of stuff.
Do we want them going back in there and putting these back in? Maybe we should do it ourselves and send them the bill.
We could, I guess, I'm not sure.
I think we're opening ourselves up for this happening again.
Well, there was really no reason to do it, so I guess opening ourselves up again, I don't know. Good question. I mean, I didn't even know about it. I just happened to be driving down the road, looking at water.
That's the last thing we want is a whole bunch of water vigilantes running around doing what they want.
Yeah, no, I agree. The water was going north there. I don't know if Kelsey's got land there or not. He may do, I don't know. But for whatever reason, it wasn't running the day I was there. It was just sitting there, those ditches those open cuts that they had cut were that full of water, and the water wasn't even moving. So they didn't gain anything by doing it.
No.
That's my thought.
I haven't been there, but I don't know what it looked like the night that it rained, what, 3-4 inches or whatever they got.
Right.
That's not the first time in the world that's happened anywhere in this county.
Right.
I mean,
As you got down the line, out of the water, it did drain away on the end, but the water where they cut wasn't getting to there for whatever reason. But you could see the high water marks there, but where the open cuts were, I mean, you could still see the high water there. It wasn't getting away for whatever reason. It seemed like almost a waste.
there's too much water in this area to put these culverts back in, right?
Like,
And do an acceptable job.
right. You'd have to do it in the wet now, in the water now.
I don't think we should let anybody do it right now. We surely wouldn't hire somebody to do it.
No. And that was Thursday afternoon, so I don't know how much the water got. It probably was trickling away,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a gusher getting away.
Well, I think we need to address this because we don't want to start all over the county.
No, I agree.
There's parts in the western part of the county, you got 6-7 inches rain.
We had a couple areas that the water was going over the road, and the culvert was functioning fine. You could see the discharge coming out of the culvert, but the other side was just so high. And they never cut those open. Within half a day or so, they were down below the road. Functioning fine. So I don't know what you wanna do here, but we're tearing out bridges right now. We've got that excavator rented, but of course we're busy doing that. So
Right.
we don't have.
Well, at the end of the day, like you said, I mean, if it's full of water, you can't really do anything anyway.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
We gotta let the situation dry up and
Yeah,
get the workable
yeah,
state.
I would say go and see what it looks like again
Right.
and then figure out. But yeah, I mean, the question is, do we want to do it or do, I mean, if it's on our road, right?
Except for the one.
I would talk to the township too and then say, you know what, if it's on our road, we're gonna fix it. It's not a bill. I mean, at least in my mind, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just go deciding you're gonna just start cutting holes in the road.
No.
I understand, I mean, to a point, I mean, I wanna get rid of water too sometimes.
I think there's 24-inch culverts in there, so it's not like their culverts are too small.
One of the excuses I received was, well, he had so much invested in his bean crop. Who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I've
I
got
mean,
all kinds of
that's
beans
really
in
not
water.
what you call an excuse. I don't believe.
Proper ways to do
Right.
that.
Yeah, that's the thing, if there's proper ways to do it, you don't just go and decide you're gonna start making cuts, I mean.
I wouldn't doubt this was probably done in the dark.
So that, when he cut the culverts, did that put water down on his neighbor then?
Yes,
Is his neighbor filed a drain complaint?
I'm not sure.
I was on the phone, like I said,
That'd be a good step to take for them to do it and get the water board involved in that. And,
Yeah. They were using, who's backhoe? His dad used to put up grain bins.
gross.
Gross, they were using Gross's backhoe, and the water did go into Gross's land. And then it did run away on Gross's land into the coulee. That's where you could see the water lines that were saving the beans on Gross's land. But I don't know whose land is beyond Gross's land. Fritz's probably got some land there too, but I believe he's renting off it. Maybe he's renting it to Gross, I don't know who he rents to. No idea.
I guess in my view, at the very least, what we should do is wait for everything to dry up, and then we can go fix it, and we should send them a bill. I think that's at least what we should do.
It looked to me like all the open cuts were alongside the culvert, like the culverts here, the cuts were
Yeah, he
away from it.
didn't necessarily ruin the culverts or anything. He just cut a hole to basically put a second line in, so you don't get the water going there.
So it's just a matter of filling the holes in.
That's what I think. Should wait till the conditions are fit to do the work. You know, and not let them go back in there and try to hogwash it together. And
Yeah.
if there needs to be another culvert there, so be it. But if that one stream can't handle it, why do you want to put more culverts in there? I mean, we hear that all the time on this commission,
Right.
you know.
Fritz himself told me that it was just the debris that was
Yeah.
plugging it up. They could have.
Should just clean them up.
saw that in a lot of places on that day after those big rains, but there's a lot of debris in those ditches that were slowing things down.
Corn stalks are good at
But
grab.
it almost worked beneficial because it didn't create a big washout on the other side.
The worst part about this one is the water just sat there. I mean, it didn't really help anything, to be honest.
Well, it sounds like we've got some time before it dries up, but at the very least, I mean, if we're gonna fix it, we gotta tell them, stay out of
Right,
it.
stay out of it.
Essentially, and we'll fix, you know, if it's on our right away, we should fix it. I mean.
Like I say, I haven't seen it, so, but having you out.
I'll let Fritz know.
Yeah, take a look at it and figure it out, bring it back, I suppose. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Very good, thanks, Cal. Okay. We jump down to, Rob is here, and you said he was gonna be at another commission meeting this morning, so hopefully he'll get here. We can do the other stuff we have, and then we can roll back up here, so. Yeah, we can bounce around a little bit. COVID-19 discussion. Anything exciting? The only thing I had made mention of, or made a point on was, at the last meeting, I forgot to bring up too, that, I gave the directive to Candy since she and her staff oversee the, well, I didn't give it to her, talking about the memorial building usage. And what we came to was, we would just follow the governor's smart restart guidelines and how they say we should do things, because I mean, they've got those large facility plans already put in place. There's really no reason for us to redevelop a plan on our own. They got a really decent plan, so. If that's okay with everyone, I don't know why it would be, but I just figured I'd bring it up, and that's, was the directive that we came up with.
I still think it's at 75.
Yeah, which is they have 75% capacity, and then they have specific guidelines for if you were gonna use it for like a wedding dance or something, how food service has to happen and things like that, and along with social distancing and recommended mask usage if you can, and those kind of things. So pretty straightforward stuff, but it's all, you know, pretty good.
When you had the funeral there, it was all right?
Apparently, yeah, we didn't hear any complaints, and they, you know, they knew that that's what we asked them to follow those guidelines, and apparently they did it really well.
And they did, they were very grateful.
Yeah.
For you guys to, for them to use it.
It's their facility.
Yeah, so I don't know if we necessarily need a motion, but just so everyone's aware, that's how that's being handled right now. If somebody wanted to rent it out, they could, but they would have to follow those guidelines.
And the first wedding is August 1st, so.
Has the availability of supplies become easier? Sanitizer, wipes, masks, things like that?
Can't get wipes.
Yeah.
I think sanitizer's getting better because more places are making it.
They said about
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
Wipes are still very difficult, I think.
Some things are pretty.
Masks have been pretty good, at least I think, of what I've talked to through social services and stuff. 'Cause they've had no problems getting them through the PON asset allocation place in the state, so that hasn't been too bad.
Now, is individual departments ordering their own supplies, or is that coming through a centralized deal so we can keep track of that better and get reimbursed for COVID expenses?
For disposable?
Well, all the additional cleaning supplies, things like that, that precaution that departments are.
Roger has ordered some cleaning, provided cleaning, like disinfectant, paper towels. Chris has ordered masks,
Okay.
that we, have out on the front table, which, we had to put a sign on the box now to have them come to the auditor's office because we were having some mask happy people take half a box at a craft.
Well, at least they're taking up and giving them their friends.
Yeah,
so people can use them.
yeah, so now we have a little bit more control of how many, let me see, it was, yesterday the hand sanitizer bottle finally went missing.
Well, we made it a long ways until. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I don't really understand because it was almost empty and I was gonna refill it and I got busy and then when I thought about it, I went out there and it was gone.
And then the garbage.
No, I checked. It wasn't in there. No.
So throw away our bottles, you can't get covers.
Yeah.
So Jeff, just to answer that kind of question, so when we put it out to department heads, they were directed to go to Chris to get their line.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think Rhonda's been ordering.
Yeah, through her department of what she needs. But I think they're keeping track of their COVID expenses separately, because on those indirect costs, you can see all the COVID expense that they've racked up to, so. And we've put into the state for reimbursement. I can't remember what was the first reimbursement number. I can't remember off the top of my head. It wasn't massive, but it was
No.
it was a decent enough amount of money.
It was like, what was it, like 20? I want to say it was like 20-some thousand with everybody's.
I mean, by the time those, like the plexiglass guards and all that are not cheap. By the time you get those and cleaning supplies and everything else that goes into it. So.
I've been ordering some on my own.
Yeah. That's okay, as long as, I think it's gonna be, it's nice to centralize it as best we can, but it's gonna be a little piecemeal too, because, like, if you need something for your department, calling Chris and saying, order this for my department might get a little bit of cumbersome too, so,
Well, if we can get reimbursed for it, then individual departments can
yeah,
itemize that.
as long as they know it's a COVID expense and it comes to the auditor as such, so it's gonna, and Chris, so that it gets reimbursed accordingly, I don't have a problem with it, as long as, all the department heads know what's going on with it, so it's not.
And carry the additional stuff for courts, is that being handled by courts or?
It is.
Good.
I think overall, other than that first one, we had to kind of straighten out the mask policy, I haven't heard a whole lot of too many things that have been too, everything's been fairly well, we've had some for a couple over masks. Okay, anything else to add, I guess, in that portion of the discussion? Okay. Nothing, we'll move on.
So do we want to go ahead and continue with the policy that you're currently using? Or do we need that as a motion, or do we want to?
I don't think so. It's a standing policy right now, so, I mean, unless we're gonna make a change to the policy as we're making it work, and I think, at least in my mind, seeing what's going on around the country, I mean, we have to kind of keep vigilant, so. I hate to say it, but I think we're probably more than likely gonna go back the other way, even tighter again, if this thing continues to swell, and I will say that I think we've done overall in North Dakota a pretty good job. Luckily, we're socially distanced to a point to start with, by geography's sake. But we have done a pretty good job. I mean, I think the governor said he wanted to get to 6,000 tests a day by the end of June, and we didn't, but it wasn't for lack of testing capabilities. It was because they couldn't get enough people to get tested.
Well, if you look, I mean, the number of tests given, we've tested half the state at this point.
I mean, we've done a good job testing. We have good contact tracing. So I think we've done a pretty good job, but it still remains that we just have to stay on top.
When I say half the state, I don't mean literally half the state. I mean the number of tests delivered. I'm sure some people have been tested a few times.
Well, yeah, like anybody that's working
350,000 tests.
Yeah, anybody that's working in a nursing home or at a healthcare facility has been tested multiple times, especially the nursing home residents and the people that work in nursing. So, yeah, but overall, it's just stay vigilant and stay the course, and we'll see what happens as we go forward. Okay, raffle permit.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the raffle permit. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Site authorization.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the site authorization. Further discussion on that.
The other one, Dean. Did we get the paperwork? Huh?
Nope. They were a little late to the game,
Paperwork.
so.
Next time.
I already mentioned something about that, by the way.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Homestead credit. We have a motion. I'm waiting for a second, guys.
Oh, second, sorry.
We have a motion and a second to approve the homestead credit. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Okay, ESO, Bryce, welcome.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning. I submitted a report. We saw an increase in large disability claim submissions. And what I mean by large disability claims is like retired military folks that accumulate a lot of different disabilities over their tenure. It will trigger me getting medical documentation, statements of support and stuff. So those claims can take 40 to 60 or more hours of work on. So I'm working on quite a few of those, mostly retired guys from Camp Grafton. The VA is doing examinations and claim reviews again, so the call volumes regarding past claims is getting a bit heavier. So now that the VA is doing the examinations and the three-letter company that work for the VA that's contracted is lining up with the civilian doctors and stuff, the claims, the veterans are then going in there and they're calling in with questions, what's going to happen, or setting up appointments and stuff like that. So I'm getting a little bit more call volume coming in regarding that. I saw 59 veterans coming into the offices this past month, and I only count the veterans if they have an inquiry or assessment or an actual case that I can work on. Little walk-in is usually really quiet, but it gives me an opportunity to work on those large claims. I can download all their medical records and files and documentations onto the computer here in Dallas Lake, onto their computer program. I go to walk-in then, and I can sit down, and it's kind of nice to get a little bit caught up over there. Well, Dakota is a little bit different because I'm only doing a half day there, and I usually average seeing one person there every week. And if it's a larger claim or something that I'm working on, like a champion or something, it can take up most of that 4 hours with those folks, plus the additional phone calls or messages that I'll have from the week when I get there to also work on. Some of the other counties I sent word for Montano and Rolette. There might be more than that from other counties or even out of state, but I don't always remember to ask them what county they're from. The phone calls and email cases are not included in this report, but if you ever wanted me to start doing that, I can. I log everything onto the VA computer system, so I can not only tell you, how many call volumes I get in, I can tell you what's happening within the county and some stuff too, regarding, homeless cases, loans, doctors and stuff. I can tell you how many reports I do every month, and forms that I fill out. So if you want that on a quarterly or monthly basis, just let me know and I can provide you with all that information. The accreditation training has gotten changed to this month, the 20th to the 24th of July. So I'll be down there getting accredited. And that's also going to give me an opportunity to get in on once I'm trained in on it's called the VBMS system. But it's going to help me to do the cases because it gives me access into the VHA, the health system. So if I'm doing claims and stuff, I can look at some of the medical documentation. Referrals to other services, working with Lake Region Human Services, North Dakota National Guard Retirement Service Office. I had one last month, and I've already had 3 this month for retirees coming in. There's a lack of people at Camp Grafton to help them with that, so they're coming to my office. But last week I talked to them, and they found somebody they're going to train in out there, so that's going to probably stop or slow down. And then to the community-based outreach clinic. I've had a few veterans that I found were not aware of their ability to get into the medical system. So we get them enrolled. It's a couple easy forms to do and stuff. So if they ever need to get care from the VA or for in the future and stuff, at least they're in the system. So other than that, there was one thing last week that I'm working on with the community outreach. There's a new homeless veteran program. I was at a meeting yesterday, actually several meetings, and I can give you more details on that for the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much for the report. Thank you. Thank you for all the help on behalf of the veterans.
Yes.
Do you feel you're settled in pretty well and everything?
Yeah, I think so. Been busier than I thought it was going to be, but that's okay right now. And I think a lot of that has to do with more people now that the Blue Courthouse is open are starting to come in. It wasn't bad this Monday, but last Monday it was weird because I ended up with 12 different cases on that day, so that was a little overwhelming on me. But I think we're going to start to see more coming in to submit claims, and then probably about 4 months down the road, I'm going to have more veterans come in to tell me about either they got the claim or that they didn't get it, and that can trigger like an appeal paperwork and stuff too. So, and then we'll probably get into the GI Bill stuff here when we get closer to the fall with the college students. So it seems to be like a little bit of a wave going on when I look at what's happening with my own reports on the computer system. I think I'm doing okay.
Great, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I saw Roger walk in. He's behind the beam though. He's still there?
I'm here. Scoot over a bit if you want.
Yeah, let's go over your budget real quick.
Okay.
Page 12 and then 38. Thank you for moving.
Okay, we'll start out on the courthouse. What about the 2% for the increase for wages? 55, 547, 81 for me. 38, 580, 48 for Ratney, plus 500 for overtime in case he needs to come in for snow removal. Seth, $20,043 plus 600 for if he has to come in for overtime with brand new driver gone. Travel 100. I think pretty much everything else is the same. 24,000 electricity, 43,000 electricity for 4 hours in the previous one. Steam heat 40,000.
I know we're running a little high on that, but it's always better to have enough than not. Too much than not enough, I guess. Utilities, courthouse, 8,000. Utilities, memorial, 5,000. Telephone services, 27,000. Maintenance courthouse, 35,000. Contracts, 27,500. Capital outlays, 5,000. That came to 329 and 7129. But, Kathy and I had been talking, we still haven't, for the county roll fund, nailed down a figure for that. We're still thinking about, possible upgrades to the telephone system, and I've, got some estimates down here for cutting a doorway into the historical room and putting a hallway in there so they can have their family meetings at the same time as if we want a meeting in the historical room. Right now, they have their family meetings, they file through. And it isn't like several years ago when we would have a meeting, could easily have a meeting in both rooms here, but I was talking to Christy Hoisted, and she said, yeah, that would be nice, because sometimes even they have two groups of family meetings, while they still just use the historical room. One in historical room, one in the other.
You don't see much of a problem cutting the doorway in?
We did it on first floor, so, problem, no, I mean, I talked to, our asbestos man never did give me a hard figure, but, I went back before the last time he did it up on third floor, so just take that figure and add, a percentage. So, like I said, we're still kind of waiting on the phone here.
I make contact with them. They know I need a number.
But other than that, I guess things should be cut and dried. Leaf board. And things here haven't changed a whole lot either. For salaries, 11,000. Fixed charges, I did raise that to 4,000. Travel, 1,200. Equipment, 5,000. Utilities, I raised that to 1,500. Supplies, 5,000. Labor and employment, 49,500. Chemicals, 51. A total of 128,200. And that's what the 3 mills comes out to be, is 128,200. And of that, we always have a carryover, so technically we don't need 128,200. I don't know what the figure is. The last few years, about 2 mills is what we really need. Because we always have a carryover.
How big is the carryover?
It varies from year to year. Like I said, it's been as much as a mill sometimes. This year, it's got 42,000 something.
Yes.
So,
We could cut a half a mil out of there, be pretty comfortable.
we cut it out a mill out. Okay. We should be good.
Maybe that can be.
Isn't there a thing too where, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there like we get a certain percentage back from the state on certain
Yes,
stuff
we
too?
have to have the equivalent of 3 mills in order to get that money back from the state.
At least budgeted, but we don't have to necessarily,
Correct.
we don't have to, but we don't have to actually
Right.
take the mills out of the.
Like I said, and for the last several.
Yeah, so you can keep that budget at that mill rate and then just under levy to 2 mills or whatever.
And we've been doing that for several years.
I was gonna say, I remember there's some type of a reimbursement thing that goes on.
Substantial amount we get back from the state.
It varies, I think there are sometimes we can get upwards of 5,000 back. So, I mean, it's better to get it than not.
Yeah. Always, always.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, any questions for Roger?
Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, Roger, appreciate it. Okay. Goodness gracious. We're waiting for Rob, we can,
I got a number, but I don't have a phone. 350-2132.
I think I have service in this study.
You don't have any service?
No.
See how far away it is.
You guys wanna do portfolios and then we can go?
Sure, go ahead.
Lucas, we'll start with you.
Hey, you're making me deliver bad news.
Oh, no.
So figured I'd give you guys this update. I have a solution for it, although it's not pleasant. Let's see here, two and a half months ago, I had a passing conversation with the library director. And he asked me a question, and I believe at that time I misheard it. The question that he asked me was, have any of the library board members served more than 2 consecutive terms? And in my head, what I heard him say was, has anybody served more than 2 consecutive years? And I answered him, well, yes. So what I didn't realize was that he was going to use that information to fill out our state aid form. And so then that went to the state library. The state library thought that that was probably a clerical error, which of course it was, because nobody has served more than 2 consecutive terms. And they called him and asked for clarification on that. And as much as I wish he would have called me to clarify, he told them that no, in fact, that was the correct answer. And on the 23rd of June, they sent an email, which I was made aware of on the 2nd of July. On the 2nd of July, I called the state library, ate as much crow as I possibly could, and they said, well, I don't know what we can do because, 1, the money's been sent out, 2, our new fiscal year started yesterday. So they're looking into it, but I don't have very high hopes. And what that means for the library is a budget shortfall of about $18,000. Now, here's my solution. I believe the library foundation can offset the difference for this 1 year. You know, seeing as we raised all this money to support the library, we may as well use some of it to support the library. So I don't believe that it'll come back onto the county or the city, for that matter. But I feel I need to make you aware of it in case it comes up that this is the case.
We can get this situation with the state squared around for next year.
Yes, I mean it was big. I mean it's like a multiple. You know, it's like yes, no, and because you put yes there. I talked to this assistant state librarian on the 2nd and explained it, and she said, yep, no, that makes perfect sense, and that's really terrible that it happened that way. She said, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I said, I bet this is the first time in the entire time I've been doing this that the library hasn't gotten state aid. She said, yep, I think so. So I'll take the blame. I mean, it is my fault. I should have been more aware of what was happening. And it's kind of a pretty big embarrassment to me, but I figured I better make everybody aware. And like I said, it shouldn't hold anyone in harm because we'll cover it through the foundation. The foundation will just make a grant to the library for that amount. So, any questions on that? Okay, so that was that. Other than that, quick update, planning on having a home rule charter meeting on the 21st, 22nd.
I said 22nd.
22nd. So I'm gonna, meet with Candy this week and we'll send out all of the information and agenda and a copy of the charter and everything to everybody. Looked like that day would work for most everybody, so we'll have that meeting then. I expect that meeting will mostly be to catch everybody back up to speed on what's going on. Then we'll find a time for a public hearing, and if another meeting or 2 needs to happen, and that'll depend entirely on what the committee, what direction they want to go. So that's a quick update on that.
What time do you meet?
1 o'clock. Open to the public, obviously, so if anybody wants to come.
People.
I think That pretty much covers everything for me, so.
Okay, thank you. Ed?
Well, law enforcement center, and some numbers have been good in the jail. That's been helping financial end of it. And we went through the budget, started, I think, in April. And I think we have a pretty good budget. According to the radio, the city has another idea, but I don't know exactly their concerns. So I can't share them with you, but Rob can if he gets here, and the other counties seem to be all right with this budget. Benson, Nelson, and you can see in your book there's a buy-in, and they seem to all be all right with the 911 buy-in. That seemed to be a hot topic at, I think it was the April or May meeting. But they seem to be all right with it. Rob could explain more of that, I'm sure. We haven't had our inspection out there because of the covert. We had a positive test here, and then they had one in down there in Bismarck. They called off. Then they had an issue up in Rolette County, so they had to take care of that week. So it was called off. Doing that, social service, I can report on that. Or two seem to be going all right. Indirect costs seem to be an issue with Rolette County.
Yeah, specifically with Rolette County. Yeah.
Any questions?
Okay, Jack?
Airport Authority, I think people have probably heard that we secured our 3-year essential air contract with SkyWest, so you see our senators thanking for that. And let's see, some of our COVID response money, I think $1.3 million was awarded to the airport, but it's over a period of time. It's over a number of years instead of one lump sum kind of thing. So, a little different. We heard from Carrie with her activity. Extension, I heard Bill on the radio, I guess. He said, you know, crops are handled some of the rain as well as can be expected. Others, areas of the county had some issues with it, with too much, and some diseases may be showing up with the high humidity levels that we've been seeing. Sarah sent me an update, 4-H, they completed a 2 DIY camps last month. They're having a clover bud camp this Wednesday, a photography camp next month. Summer shooting sport shotgun is going well. We have 5 contestants participating in the state communication arts contract next week, virtually. Ramsey County Senior 4-H'er Abby Dahl was selected as a 4-H ambassador and will represent Ramsey County at numerous 4-H events. And this is a huge achievement, not only for the county, but for Abby herself. Congratulations to her. 4-H Achievement Days is still happening, but will look very different due to COVID-19 restrictions. North Dakota State 4-H restricts events are not open to the public, but will be on social media, photos and videos starting the week of July 17th to the 24th. Horse show, livestock, pet show, static exhibits, and project expo. Will all be happening. Junior master gardening classes and gardeners attending to 3 gardens at the fairgrounds, CMS, and city plot. They have 2 junior master garden classes with the area children. 3 more classes will be held this summer. Produce will go to the children, and we donate the rest to the Hope Center. Report from Indian Street.
Always a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, you know, despite everything that's happening in the world, they're still managing to get things taken care of, so.
How much better you can do when outside your garden.
Right, yeah.
This great, man. Okay, anything else, Jeff?
I don't think so.
Okay, very good, thank you. From my perspective, I guess I can piggyback on Ed's comments on social services. Yeah, we had budget specialist from the State Human Services Department on with us in our last meeting, trying to get some clarity on indirect costs and how those are essentially affecting the different counties within all of these different human service zones. The main concern is, you know, in Ramsey County, we have mills, we have the ability, if we have a overrun because of indirect costs, that we can go find the money in the general or something like that, because we actually had some money left in our social services funds when we went into the zone. Whereas counties like Rolette are pretty much capped up to 60 mills, I think, on their general. I don't think they can even find another dollar if they needed one, is essentially the concern. So there might be, but if I remember correctly, there's some things in the legislation that might be able to help that out too, if I remember right. So that's an ongoing concern, but we had a good long discussion about that. We're gonna meet we've been doing teleconference meetings. We're gonna meet in person for the first time since February, something like that, next week. So, and we're gonna have I think we're gonna have a pretty good in-person discussion, try to get some of this stuff hammered out. So we'll have some more information at our next meeting in terms of how things are gonna kind of work out. You know, a lot of it comes down to facilities maintenance, things like that, or where a lot of those costs are happening all of a sudden. So we'll see how that works. County Housing Authority, I wasn't able to make our last meeting, but apparently everything's going fairly smoothly. We got some COVID-19 related funds there as well. Not sure what we're going to do with them yet. We've been talking about maybe doing something. We actually had readjusted the entryway where the offices are, but we've talked about readjusting it a little bit more so that if you've ever been over to the building there where the main offices are, you have to walk into the main lobby where all of the it's shared space with the people that live in the building. And with the COVID-19 concerns, it almost makes sense to say, should we maybe make it so we can separate entrance office and the building, so that you don't have to have people the general populace walk in through the main place where everybody that lives in the building would be shared. So we've talked about maybe doing something like that, but all depends on what the cost is. We got a little bit of money to do something, but we haven't made any decisions yet. So if we see something happening, that might be something. Other than that, Kevin, Bryce, Candy are all here, so nothing too crazy other than that. I think if there's anything else. Forward Devil's Lake, we had a meeting a couple, 3 weeks ago now. Nothing too crazy going on there, other than we had approved some dollars to help get some software through the state on a matching grant. I don't know what the percentage was, but the state was putting up a bunch of money if you had a local entity that would help matching grant the dollars for this software that's going to help all of our career counselors at all of our public schools in our region. We're going to be helping partner with them, because then the thought process is help these counselors keep track of the kids better so that they can help them match up with the career they want, and then we can roll them into those 20 by 20 jobs that we have, where we can then help sponsor them to keep them in the community and get people from outside the community to come in and do those jobs that we have matched up in the community. And it wasn't a huge investment, if I remember correctly, but the state is putting up a bunch of matching dollars. So hopefully that'll work out really well. That the school is excited about it, I guess. So, and we're going to roll it out from Devil's Lake out. So that's through the state foundation, but that's what's happening there. Other than that, it rained too much. But he said, yeah, we had 5 inches of rain at one point.
Did you?
And then we had another half inch the next day. So it's wet. That being said, we're still able to keep spraying and stuff, water through some things. When was Rob planning on being here? Did he tell you an ETA?
What county was he going to, do you know? Benson?
I don't know that he said where, he just said 9:30-ish.
Oh, well, we got some time. Can we go over maybe your budget or part of Kevin's or something?
What time mentioned one thing, but I was gonna, with my turn, I forgot. When you look at budgets, I just gonna mention where that consumer price index is right now that drives the cost of living increase. And it is at -0.07. And I know that the association did do a spreadsheet with counties to update what they're doing with increases this year. A majority is not doing cost of living increase, and they also some are not doing step increase. So just so you're aware of that part. And then I was also gonna mention, if you're gonna look at health insurance, I was gonna add a little my opinion on it, that if you're gonna look at pulling it out of employees paying a portion of it, that we should probably over the next year take a look at healthcare and coverage options that are out there and costs and what different levels they are of coverage. I think that instead of going right directly to the employees, it should be looked at with different carriers. Because that is such a huge recruitment part for the county to get that 100% coverage.
You know, I'm sure it's a very good recruiting tool.
It is, and I think that's what holds a lot of the longevity is that. But I was just gonna give a suggestion on that.
Okay, yeah, and the cost of living thing, you know, when we decided to put it in, it was just a matter of, we didn't know where it was gonna come out at. So, I mean, we might, you know, we could still make the decision, obviously, from this budget to pull out the cost of living to, if we want to go 0 or whatever, but.
After our last law enforcement center meeting, we approved the 2% cost of living. I got home the next day, I read the Fargo Forum, and Cass County had that in there, and then they took it away because during the COVID, cost of living went from 2 down to a minus. Like.
Yeah.
But that's a temporary shift, I think. You know?
Well, I don't know. How do you look into the future and say it's going to stay there?
Well, actually, I think you can. I mean, if we're going to get into a fiscal discussion here, with the Fed printing money, right?
Yeah.
With the Fed printing money, with everybody being sent checks, and that may continue, that will drive inflation.
Well, absolutely.
And there's almost no economist that says it's not going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And I'd say by the end of next year, you'll see a fair amount of inflation on things.
When we set a budget, we need to deal with what's at the present. It's hard to look into the future. We're always looking out in here.
Right. And
Well, I mean, there's always the option if we think cost of living is gonna, you know, since it's negative right now and it started the year at 2, maybe we can say 1 or something. I mean, we have many different options we can use to find, you know. At the same time, I want to make sure that we, you know, at least from my perspective, that we don't fall behind just because we're having a tougher year. We want to make sure that we still stay competitive and everything else. So,
Like law enforcement, we didn't get no cost of living last year or a step.
Yeah.
We didn't do either one. And this year, we're going to do both. And like I said, after I left the meeting, went home the next day, picked up the fire reform, and I seen what Cass County was doing. And they took the 2% away. So, your information, that's what I learned.
yeah. Yeah, and it's like everything, like we said, I mean, you know, first budget, we can always roll back.
Yep.
It's good to have it in there so we can roll it back if we need to. Speaking of budgeting, are we going to try to finish all the budgeting in our next meeting? Are we gonna need a special? What's our plan? I guess I haven't talked to you about it, so.
That's my goal.
Do you wanna get started the next meeting instead of 4, we'll do like a 1 or 2 o'clock or whatever we've done in the past and try to knock it out in one day?
Start at 4?
We'll start, what I said, 5:30 start, I'm sorry, so we started maybe 4 or 3, something like that. I think that's reasonable, if that's okay with it. I like trying to get it all done in the same day we're coming.
Absolutely.
We call special. Okay, well then that's what I'll be there, then, that's good.
That's already candy.
Yeah, that's okay with you. That's what your plan is, I'm on board with that too, so. And like I talked about it, I haven't looked at it recently, but health insurance, we were actually, claims-wise, we were running under budget fairly well. And granted, some of that was people not going to the doctor during this COVID-19 thing, but the first 3 months of the year before that all started roaring, we were even under budget at that point. So there's the possibility too, we could look at maybe instead of funding, $2,200 for a family policy, the stop loss coverage is only $950 or something. We could actually maybe back it down to funding $1,800 of it or something, because we're actually going to build the fund when we thought we were going to chop into it $250,000. So we'll have some options there too to maybe find some dollars. The other thing too is, obviously, I'm sure we're all aware the old what's it called, prairie dog groundhog, I can't remember what the heck the thing is, the infrastructure bill. The buckets are not going to fill. And we borrowed ahead on federal aid to get our project done this year, so the federal aid's not going to be the Hampton Road. So I'm sure you're going to have stuff in your budget how we can build the fund up so we can stay on pace. Or what's our plan? Probably try to levy half of it next year and half the next year after that, probably. So 10 mils is going to get us 600,000, give or take, and the project's going to be what, 1.2, 1.3.
Actually, I didn't put it in next year's budget. I figured on doing it 22 and 23.
Okay, so we would probably pay it in 23 then instead of 22.
Right.
Okay.
But what we saved on this year's project,
Yeah, that's considerable. Yeah. So
300.
we're building the fund too.
300, is that what it was? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we were under budget quite on the thing, but pretty.
Yeah, it was about 300 on the 10 lift overlay and about 60,000 on the chips. Good.
And
Good savings.
how far ahead did we go on federal aid to get this project done again?
2 years. 2 years.
2 years. So we're not going to get federal funding again until 2023 then?
Right.
We took 20, 21, and 22. Yeah, so that's something we'll have to look at if we're not gonna have to build that in, that's gonna make the budget a lot easier to a point. I mean, could we, I mean, there's always the possibility if we don't plan on paving till 23, maybe we spread it over 3 years instead of 2 as well. So we can slowly ease it, instead of having to put 10 on, we can put 6 or 7 on. So we can build the fund back up. Options. So, okay, want to do yours real quick? Are you prepared?
Yeah,
Okay, what page are you on there?
I'm on page 4. One of them.
Okay.
I got several. Salaries, we went with the step system. I didn't really increase anything except for, like as everyone has discussed, that the cost of technology and computers that usually comes out of the IT budget, we're going to split out amongst each office. Otherwise, it's not too,
Pretty much the same.
yeah. Yeah,
Just salary increase.
part of everything. And I think what I'll do, like for the, with the splitting out of everyone's technology, just to keep it all the same, I think I'm just gonna create a new line item for each department. It's just entitled technology, so that we can make it a little bit easier for Jackie to.
Well, yeah, we're getting to the point now where, like we talked about, everybody's gonna, so we have the flexibility to work with them, maybe some everybody needs VPN and all that kind of stuff. So it only makes sense that we should roll it under the specific budget because, yeah, then it just makes it's cleaner that way. Okay. You got any other budgets?
Let's see. Commissioner's budget. A good one. I just went with the 2% and then kept everything else the same.
Okay.
Can you remind me on average, what does a step tend to equate to in terms of percent of salary?
I'll print off what spreadsheet we have on the computer where it has each, like where it is currently, what this would be, but yeah.
I thought Crystal said 3%.
I think it's like,
Three.
I think it's like 3.
misunderstood that.
Did you say Kevin, 3?
I think she's.
I think a step is like the equivalent of like 3%. Because it's, well, and it's all structured within how, you know, the max salary and then starting spot and all that. But we had talked several years back about stretching out the salaries too. So instead of having 25 steps, we would have gone to 30, I think, or something. And to essentially alleviate the concern like Crystal had, we have so many good long-term employees that they hit the top of that scale and then all they're getting is the percentage increase.
Right.
They're not getting a step anymore.
You know, on the law enforcement side, it was a classic example. Difficulty in hiring people, maintaining them there, keeping them there. But when we didn't get a step last year, or the cost. I mean, attitude went down and, it was a loss that we did this year, there's no question.
I think the step system just works really well too. It gives
Right.
certainty on where wages are gonna move and it makes it easy for budgeting. People they know if I start here and I have good performance, but you know, the cost of living is hopefully gonna keep up too, but at least if you can't do a cost of living, the step's gonna still cover the cost of living, plus you might get a little bit of a functional raise out of it.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
then just to clarify, and I'm not saying I have a problem with it, I just wanna clarify in my mind. So the change in your salary, is that just a step or is that a step plus a
Step plus 2, like everyone.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So it essentially
we
be five.
like
So,
at the top of this.
Well, so when I did the math just now, it came up to be 4%. So that's where I was wondering what step was,
Maybe it's 2 and 2, I don't know.
you know, and that was my only reason for asking.
It does depend on your longevity, like if you've been here 20 years, it won't be the 3%, but if you've been here 3 years, it'll be closer to 3%.
Sure.
Yeah,
Honestly, that's.
yeah, and you're right. Some of it comes down to too, where I think the step system is actually slightly more aggressive on the bottom end to get you to median pay scale within a certain amount of time. But then once you get on the top end, it actually slows down a little bit.
Right.
So not everyone is equal on.
And that's, most school districts are froze after 20 to 25 years.
Yeah.
And they'll get a cost of living, but they don't get, if the base goes up, I shouldn't say cost. If the base salary goes from 40 to 41, they'll get that 1,000. They won't get their step if their base would be way more 40, right? 60 range.
Sure.
But they don't get the longevity at all, because they're maxed out, they maxed out scale.
Okay.
And they all do it.
So we have four employees that are
Maxed.
Yeah, I just figured it'd be probably good to know. I tend to like to think of things in terms of percentages, because I find it's easier to keep everything straight, you know, so yeah. Okay.
No, but that's where Crystal and I talked about too. I think a salary survey, you know, if she can do it in-house and make it work, is probably the best way to go about doing it. We need to look at one, just because we haven't looked at one for so long that, just so we can make sure we're staying competitive and.
I was on the commission last time we did it. It was a huge step. I mean,
Yeah.
salary went up considerably.
Yeah, she said 2011, but I recall doing, I don't know if it was a full salary survey, but I remember doing something since I've been on the commission too. I don't remember what year it would have been, maybe 15-ish.
I think they looked at Walsh County. They didn't use Grand Forks or Farmington. And they used Walsh and maybe Stutzman.
I think it was
Barnes,
Tanya
maybe.
that did it, wasn't it Tanya?
Yeah, we had her do it, I can't remember what year it was. But
Yeah.
I remember doing some, we didn't do a full salary survey, but we did some updating in certain areas. I don't think we did the whole thing though, but I recall doing something.
I think in 11, we hired the actual firm to do it.
Okay, and we just updated it for you.
Yes.
Yeah, because that was the first time steps were put in. Before that, it was just kind of
It was a considerable argument, I know that.
shoot in the dark kind of thing. I don't know, I think this makes the most sense, at least in my mind. Anyway, that's all you got is just the two? You got nothing else to tell us? We're killing time here, come on.
Page 2,
Okay, Okay, page 2.
Page 2, everything has been running, nothing just out of the ordinary, so I just kept everything at the same features.
Okay.
I don't think I finished the rest. Because we were waiting for the phone company, we're waiting for Blue Cross.
Heard nothing from them?
They hoped by Friday.
They didn't give you any idea?
No, I called yesterday and I said, well, can I have them by today?
No way.
I didn't wake up to an email, so it's gonna be Friday. Maybe sooner.
Yeah.
We could talk about the bond payments. That's on page 34. Around the average figure for yearly payments.
When are we done paying for the search and rescue building? Are we done now?
This year?
No, we have one payment left.
So next 2021 will be our last
It'll
payment.
be our last.
2021, this one, we're budgeting for now.
And then we have bonds that are coming due in
2020. Well, so when I looked, right, the bonds started becoming callable next year, right? And so the difference is if you call the bond, you pay back the principal, but you're not responsible for the interest until it matures, right? So you could put off paying it, but you still have to pay the interest every year. Does that make sense?
really.
Yeah, so yeah, a callable bond, that's how it works. And so we would not be penalized for paying it back sooner. That's a risk that the investor in the bond takes on, which is, hey, I think I'll be paid for 30 years, but if for whatever reason, they decide to call it back, if it's callable in 20 years, then I won't get that last 10 years of interest.
Yeah.
So that's why what was that, 2 years ago, I was saying, hey, if we can find a way to pay these back early. I think when I did the math originally, it was like we would save ourselves, I think it was like $80,000 worth of interest over the life of the remaining time of bond.
So it's not nothing, but it's.
But you'd have to come up with a pretty substantial amount.
Cash.
But and this would be another question, we'd have to look into the actual bond paperwork. But you don't have to call all the bonds. I think you can basically call as many as you want. But I don't know how you do it. There's probably you have to do a lottery, so you can't pick and choose, if that makes sense.
Ken, do you remember which agency we used, legal bonds? I remember doing it, we had to come in and sign.
Northlands.
Are they still an ongoing concern and everything?
Are they in Minneapolis or Florida?
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think City Devils Lakes use them for us.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be worthwhile to have even if they called in and gave us an update on our bonds, and they'd be able to tell us much better than
It was spread out.
That would be a bad idea, just so we can plan ahead.
know what our options might be.
Okay?
Does Jeff want to do his?
Yours.
I can talk about mine, what page is that on?
Knock it out.
53,
Let's knock it out. We'll get stuff done here.
and then I'll sneak over and call Rob and see what.
Didn't ask for anything additional. Keeping everything the same. Some of the things that we're doing around the basin is, part of our stuff is we're supposed to give back to our counties that that we assess to. Over the years, we've done in Ramsey County, helped out with fish cleaning stations, the accessible fishing piers.
There it is.
There he is, right on time.
Through Lake Access Committee, we've given them support, we've given some financial assistance to the park board for that boat tour that they're doing out in the public golf course. And some other fish cleaning stuff or beach that the park board is working on in Lakewood. And recently we started putting in end-on stations. 2-3 years ago, we put one up in Ramsey County, north of Webster. And then this year we put one in east of Cadu by Wolford, the 3 miles, no, it's west of Cadu, east of Wolford, about 3 miles. And we have purchased 2 more of them that we're going to put up in Cavalier County up by Clyde, and one over south of Rock Lake on the tip of the basin up that way. And the whole purpose of that is gaining more precipitation data and try to come up with better flood predictions, how water affects, how precipitation affects watersheds. So they'll have the soil probes and the temperatures and the wind and then, you know, help out the producers in the area. We're doing inversion so they can, you know, see when it's a good time to spray and when it's not, kind of thing. And trying to expand that coverage throughout. I think next year we'll probably look at eastern Ramsey, western, northwestern Nelson, and southwestern Walsh County, somewhere in that neighborhood, for an end-on station. And then maybe one south of the highway down here in the Tomahawk area in that neighborhood. And then we have really good coverage of the basin with precipitation.
Yeah, they're really useful.
They are.
We use them all the time for spray.
Incredibly useful. And the ones with the inversion have the Northwest Soybean Council has an app on your phone that you can get them so that it'll give you alarms when things are right or things are wrong. And
You just have to remember to turn the alarm off, otherwise it'll wake up in the middle of the night.
right, yeah, because it does go off quite frequently. That's some of the things that the basin's doing, or the joint board's doing. Continue trying to follow our basin water management plan, and
No inversions are ideal right now. Delta T is only 10 degrees. Perfect.
I'd certainly be open to try to answer any
Yeah,
questions.
any questions, yeah.
All is good.
Good to me. Okay, very good. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Rob made it. We're in here. Morning.
Thanks for waiting for me.
Oh, we found it. We found things.
So I guess I'll go right into it. Basically, just come to talk about the preliminary budget for the law enforcement center. As you're aware, we have 3 separate budgets that we are doing now. We have the law enforcement center general fund, we have 911, and then we have the reentry center. So just a couple of things that we applied agency-wide, specific to the labor that's built into the budget, is a 2% cost of living increase for staff, as well as a performance-based step increase. We didn't change anything as far as on the benefit side. I did pursue and try to advocate for PERS this year. We opted again not to do it, so we'll reevaluate that for next year. So we're staying on our existing 457B retirement plan. We are exploring the ND Fit, the North Dakota Public Health Insurance Trust, through NDERF as a potential option for our healthcare insurance to try and reduce the increases that are constantly seen in our healthcare premiums. We were told to expect another 8% increase this year on our healthcare premiums, and we should have those numbers probably at some point next month, because our benefit year actually ends at the end of September. We have worked it out to where if we do join ND Fit, we experience savings there that we will
Blue Cross Blue Shield will cover us for the last quarter of this year and then allow us to transition into MPFit, which is also going to be put on by Blue Cross Blue Shield. So that's what we're kind of doing in regards to the labor. That's going to be applied across the board. So any questions on that before I roll into 911? Okay, so on the 911 side, a couple of things to note is that the cost share formula for 2021 will change. There was a push to try and base it more upon telephone lines and to get incorporated a portion of it to be an equal split. So the cost share formula is based off 44% on telephone line for each county, 22% off of the 3-year average of 911 calls received by each county, 22% based off of administrative calls received by each county, and then 12% is equally split. So that's how the cost share formula is worked to develop for 2021. And so with that, I'll have you look, if you look at the 911 joint powers revenue, that's where those percentages are applied. I want to point out that if the 2020 projected joint powers revenue was $338,000, that's essentially what our projected shortfall was for 911. In 2021, we're projecting $415,000. The increase in that is due to the loss of Towner County 911 revenue, which was about $60,000. And then we added a $20,000 technology fund on the expense side that you'll see. So we have money that we're trying to put aside for future technological advances that we need to do. So that's where that difference is coming from. 911 is a budget that is not going to change much year to year. Siren is not included in this as far as the project itself. And the reason is we have applied for a North Central Planning Council grant. Ramsey County actually applied on our behalf of that. And I'm also seeking and trying to find other grant opportunities that we may be able to use to fund that. And then it's the intention to borrow the money for whatever we do have left and then pay that over the course of 3 or 5 years. The first payment of that would not come due until 2020. So that's why there's nothing in here based on the site. That's pretty much all that I have on the 911 side. Again, it's a budget that is not going to change much year to year.
One quick question on this is, has anybody approached any of the state legislators and talked to them about how the 911 fees are not covering 911 costs?
Yes, I have. They're supposed to address it this session. And I don't know what their answer will be, but it might be raise the cell fees.
I mean, it seems to make more sense to me that instead of pulling out property taxes, that everybody that has a cell line has to pay a little bit more. It just seems like that makes more sense. It's a use to be no difference than use of when you put gas in your car, Or you use it more way.
Well, and we're unique in the fact that, because we have made a lot of these changes based on how other PSAPs or 911 centers are running their budgets to try and get all of our labor out to separate so that we can see it. Those other ones, most of their labor is coming out of their general fund because they're either county or city employees are being paid out of those budgets and not out of the 911 budget. So we don't have that luxury being the law enforcement center and being separated like we are. So that's why you see this.
Yeah, like Stutzman County or something.
Yes.
The Stutzman County Jail isn't a standalone thing, it's a county facility, so it's all buried in the cost.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
And that's 911 was getting funded by the jail for years. A year. The jail can't sustain that. Just can't. And that's why it's getting set up this way, and that's why the increases with the city and the county went up.
Right.
Have you been tracking the amount of time? So you're still billing a portion of the dispatchers back to the jail, correct? Or you're not doing any of that yet?
Not yet. That's the question we have from the city also. No, we're not.
Okay, I'm just kind of curious. Okay, but I mean, because you can't really throw a number in until you track data to know exactly how much time is being spent in each location.
Well, we know how many administration calls.
Yeah.
911 gets a year. What's the figure? $78.
Yeah, yeah. I just say
that's an insane amount.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's 90% of the calls received are administrative calls. Okay, I'll move on to the LEC side then. On the LEC side, things of note are that we are raising the incarceration rate from $75 a day to $80 a day. So that is reflected, and that's why you'll see the raise in the incarceration from 2020 to 2021. The incarcerations for the membership are based off of a 3-year average. So we use 17, 18, and 19 for 2021. Because I have the full years of aggregate data that I can use for that. I do believe that for the most part, is probably a little aggressive based on the fact that COVID impacts that we're seeing, that the judicial system is changing, how they're handling the inmate population. There's a lot more personal recognizance bonds that are given on the streets, so people aren't coming into the jail as frequently as they have been before. Plus, the courts aren't holding them in the jail as long either because they're giving them lower bond opportunities. When we get to the contract board revenues, those are very conservative numbers. You'll look at the U.S. Marshals, we have them at $225,000. We've already hit $210,000 for 2020. But I don't have that data to go off of to be able to get a consistent number. So we just kind of, we want to remain conservative because we also want to make sure that we're not becoming over dependent on those contract revenues. PIA, we projected at 75,000. I think that's what we still have for next year. We've already eclipsed 100,000 with them this year. So again, it's real hard to know and be able to project that out. And the plan is to not become dependent on those funds until we actually have them. And so hopefully we can continue to build our accounts. And then once we have a surplus, we can apply that towards future budgets to reduce, if not potentially eliminate that cost share that we see. The only other, the total boards are projected at an average daily population of 68. Over the last 2 months, we've averaged 83. So if we can maintain a higher population, more than 68, that's just going to provide more of a surplus for us when it comes to the revenue side, that then we can apply towards these future budgets and eliminate or reduce that cost share. The cost share was changed up again, was changed this year to try and emulate a little bit more what we did on the 911 side. It is now 88% based off of the 3-year history of incarcerations, and 12% is the equal split. So, which is the same where we had the 12% equal split on the 911 side. So that was a change in how the cost share was formulated this year. And again, you'll see what those percentages came out to on the very right side up at the cost share section. The only significant project that we have in the budget for 2021 is $60,000 for the lighting replacement that we need to do within the whole portion of the jail to get it up to standards. That's really the only significant cost that we have in there.
So just to make sure I'm reading all this right, across all 3 different budgets, the total cost to Ramsey County is approximately $1.5 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, $1,415,300.
What does it say again?
I brought another sheet.
Just to say, I mean, and I was standing right at. So
Yeah, so it's closer to 1.4, but it's over 1.4.
right, that was that close.
70.
1415872.
Reentry, things of note on reentry, Ramsey County will probably have the most interest in reentry. We do have to show where there's a projected shortfall there right now. We're waiting to see what happens with ND Fit. Plus, we've also submitted a request to the DOC for an increase in their per day rate over there. Our actual cost, we are fully staffed, is $89.01 a day. The DOC is currently paying us $61 a day. We've asked for an increase to get that to $75 a day because we do collect 15 a day from the resident. I have submitted the same request for the last biennium, and only was approved a 3% annual increase over what we were at that point. This is how we got to the 61 now. I have had a brief conversation with Dave Gravenhoff, who is the acting directions. It was a positive conversation, but ultimately it's not his decision to make. And I won't get an answer on that until May, because I'll have to go through legislation before we can see what we actually get on that request. So we're optimistic that we'll be able to get that increase. If we get that increase, it'll be more than enough to cover that shortfall that we should ever show. And then, again, that's our staffing levels over there have been extremely low. We really struggle to find and keep staff over there. That's part of the reason that reentry is doing so well right now. Joe has done an excellent job over there keeping the beds full. However, COVID's really smacked them pretty hard over there. There's just not a lot of movement from other facilities coming in. And so the numbers have been pretty low over the last month or two. I really feel like we're getting to where if we can keep and maintain our contracts the way we have, that will get to the point where we can have that surplus to start applying towards those future budgets. I'm hoping we can do that for 2022. That's really the goal, so that we can take that cost share formula and we can, it'll still be there, I think, but to really minimize that, to reduce those numbers. And then if we, hopefully get to a point where the LEC gets to a point where potentially it could go towards 911. I don't know that that's ideal, because I think that 911 needs to continue to be on its own and kind of a standalone item. People really need to know what 911 costs, and that's the true cost. Whether it acts as a control over the jail or does these additional services or not, that's what your costs are.
Like Adam's question was, have we approached the legislators on 911 costs? Selfie, see if we can get more of that percentage. I think that is definitely something that needs to be addressed by them.
Well, I think it's just something, at least look at it, because we're not the only place where this, like you said, it's buried costs in other counties, but other counties are using general fund dollars to offset.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they have to. They're underwater on it too. It just only makes sense that, there's a revenue stream that would work specific on an 911 cost. It just makes sense. In relation to just, I understand that we want to try to get down the, if we can get those contract beds and everything full, we get more dollars out. Then, I'm sure it's been a discussion at the LEC board level, but obviously we want to see money back to the county to get the cost down on what we're doing. But I just as soon see us build up a fund there, so we got money for rainy days, so we don't have to run into this again. So we've got some dollars sitting there. So when the $60,000 lighting thing comes up in July, we can say, take care of it.
Right.
Instead of waiting until the next budget cycle to have to take care of it, because we've got some money sitting in a fund.
Right.
So at least that's my thought, is let's build the fund up, and then once we get that fund to a level we're comfortable with, then we can start talking about, let's get the cost down if we have contract beds full.
I think that's the total idea of the board.
Right.
And I assumed it was, but I just wanted to reiterate that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's taken quite a while to get there.
Yeah,
Not even think about it.
Well, and even this year, we're doing extremely well on those contract revenues, but all that doing is healing back up our accounts. It was December last year, we had to take money from reentry into the general fund to cover payroll. So we need to get those costs back to where they're healthy before we can start building.
Yeah, and going into this legislative session, it's going to be just about impossible to get money out of anything. But at the same time, I still look at it from the standpoint of DOCR costs or costs at the local jail level shouldn't completely be borne by the community that it happens in. Because since we're a hub community for 8 counties, we should bear all the costs that we happen to pick up more people in Ramsey County because they're here. There should be some type of share from the state. I'm not saying they have to cover the whole thing, but there should be some kind of a cost share. And I know that's going to be impossible going into this budget cycle, but really long term there should.
Does the LEC have a cap on what it can carry over your year?
No, there's no cap.
I didn't think there would be.
Money right?
Yeah, you can carry it over as much as you.
I'm not aware.
I think internally as a board, you just figure out what do we think we need. you know, with obviously Rob's recommendation, you try to get to that number hopefully at some point, and then we can start talking about, hey, let's try to get the cost down because we got money sitting here. That's the whole.
Like any extra money we had, there was always something that we had to fix. I mean, it wasn't fixing 2 years from now, we had to fix it today. You know?
Well, and we still have things, you know, like, you drive through the parking lot there, our parking lot that's gonna be something that needs to be done in 2022 at a minimum. You know, so if we're able to get to a point where we have some additional money, that's gonna be one of the first things we're gonna have to address. You know, we spend so much time focusing on the building, that some of the exterior things go by the wayside.
Right.
Old facilities cost money.
So they do, there's no question.
It's not even that old, but it's still 50 years.
Right.
Costs money. Okay, any additional questions for Rob, I guess?
Thanks, Ron.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks
any
for
other
rushing back to get here.
questions? Anytime, let me know.
Where are you at this morning?
Benson. So I had Eddie, Nelson in the city yesterday, I had Benson, and you guys are our last one this morning, so. How'd they take it? Eddie was good, it was a really good, positive conversation at Eddie County. Nelson County, wasn't very interactive, basically, and I think.
Never are.
No, and I think it's just a lot, you know, they see it once a year, and there's just a ton of information, and they don't fully, you know, understand or deal with it that frequently. I'll hold my comments on the city. And then, Benson County this morning was, there was some questions, some difficult questions, but they were good questions. But I think for the most part, I think they're divided there. So, but I thought it went well, you know, the 911 is really the big hang up, having it split out, having the cost for 911 has kind of been the hang up for them.
Well, I'm thinking about it, just pop in my head, and as, I mean, COVID-19 is throwing a loop for everything, but has there been any additional work on updating joint powers? I know you're gonna put that into a committee and.
Yeah, so the attorney's got it, we've got the outline's been done, I actually followed up with him the other day to see if there's any more information needed right now, he's in the middle of drafting it.
Okay.
There's still some things I know that need to be defined, for him to put in there, such as, I think, is everyone gonna be satisfied with what we've got for the buy-in, or if someone wants to leave the membership, how that would work. I know we talked about it at the city commission meeting a little bit last night, and there was a sentiment that they don't feel there's enough teeth in it for people who want to leave. They feel that there needs to be more of a long-term commitment, before they're allowed to leave the membership. So I don't, I'll get Dale and Nancy and Mike back together and talk about those things, see if they want to make any changes.
Well, at least it's moving forward.
Yeah.
I figured it was gonna slow down with all the stuff that's happening.
I was hoping to have it done by now, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's completely understandable. It's been a little crazy.
Yeah. And then I'll just provide just a quick update since we're talking about COVID a little bit. We did have a mass testing event on June 18th or 19th. It was the day after our board meeting. We did have one confirmed positive case out of that. That individual has been released. We did hold another mass testing event at our facilities on July 2nd. We were informed over the weekend that we had another confirmed positive out of that in custody. At least this individual was already in quarantine. We're quarantining everyone that comes into the facility. We have yet to get any of the other test results. So we're on Tuesday now. This was last Thursday. You kind of go with no news is good news, but I've learned that with COVID, you just never know. So we're going to probably continue to do every 2 weeks until we get at least, I'd like to do it every 2 weeks so we have 2 clean runs before we slow up on off frequently we're doing the testing. And then lastly, thanks for the support on the security surveillance project. We did have a situation, and I'm not sure if the commissioners have advised you of this yet or not. We did have a situation where an individual tried to commit suicide within the facility. It was, with the new system, the other inmates were able to alert staff to it right away to where they were able to intervene and prevent the system's already paid for itself, just with that one event. Okay?
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, good.
Thanks. Okay. We haven't had business delegation. We're with that. We have portfolios, anything else? Did you miss anything on the agenda? Anybody have an announcement? Last chance. Seeing nothing, we are adjourned. Noodle something.